I've come to the conclusion that nutrition doesn't make any sense. The first thing we need to discard is the entire concept of calories. Calories are determined by burning food in a furnace and calculating the energy output. It should be obvious that our bodies are not ovens. Food does not turn into energy in the way that it does in an oven. Food is a resource for the body, and it's used in many different ways. Some of it is used immediately for energy, and some of it is stored, and some of it plays other roles besides just pure energy. More importantly, calories do not universally apply to everyone. Every person's body is different, and so they're going to process this food differently. There's no standard digestive process that translates from calorie to energy obtained from food. And you'll see why this is as we move on. All life has the same general essential components, the molecular building blocks: carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, phosphorus, and so on, and as well as these different vitamins and minerals and metals and various other chemicals and molecules, so-called micro and macronutrients. These are necessary for all life in varying degrees, types, and amounts. In other words, all the food that we eat contains some proportion of these essential molecules. There would be very little life around if every organism had to search around the world for different food groups that contained the nutrients they needed. These nutrients are more or less in everything because they're needed for those things, those organisms, to live and grow in the first place. Nutrition doesn't make any sense because all the vitamins and minerals are widely available in any grocery store. You can take supplements that have all of them. Of course, if health was all about nutrition, pharmaceutical and health insurance companies would put these supplements behind a steep paywall, which they don't. People aren't deficient in nutrients. They're pretty much everywhere in everything you eat, in the water you drink, in the air that you breathe. The way people typically determine nutrient deficiencies is a vial of blood, usually taken from the arm, and then it's studied for its mineral and vitamin content. All this definitively tells you is that specific area of the body is lacking those nutrients. This should not be extrapolated to the entirety of the body. The real issue is the distribution of nutrients. That part or different parts of your body are not receiving the nutrients that it does have. It's less about getting the right food and more about absorption and distribution. If someone is absorbing a third or half of the food that they're eating, it will take twice as much or more food to feel the effects of being full. Eating has nothing to do with caloric intake and everything to do with the efficiency of absorption and then the distribution of those resources. So let's talk about the first step, absorption. Every organism is an alchemical laboratory, and it works through the solve et coagula, to dissolve and coagulate. Digestion is the breakdown of food into these molecular building blocks, into these component parts that all life and all organic material is made up of. Digestion is an electrical sequence. Electricity is the flow or the conductivity of electrons. We have these things called hydrogen ions, which help to dissociate molecules from their electrons so that electron receptors are able to pull the building blocks into the cell membranes. There's an energy gradient that is created, and this is how we absorb food. This process, the process of digestion, requires a good deal of energy. This energy is activated through the parasympathetic nervous system, known as rest and digest, because it is when the energy of the body moves to the digestive system. The food that you absorb will be minimal if you're not in the rest and digest state. Your energy is not there in your digestive system in order for this process, for this absorption, the conductivity of these electrons, so that these building blocks can be absorbed through the cell membrane. That won't happen if you don't have the energy in your digestive system. Eating and your digestive system starts with the mouth. And the mouth has saliva, which also contains hydrogen ions and other chemicals and molecules that help to break down food. So you do begin to absorb nutrients through your cell membranes in your mouth. The mouth is where you have the most important part of eating, which is the sense of taste. The sense of taste would be unnecessary if it was only about incentivizing you to eat, because your brain could control that through endorphins and dopamine anytime you ate. But there's a more important function of taste buds that is more than just why it feels good to eat. It's about the information in taste signals. The first reaction might be that, well, we have taste buds so that we can know if something's poisonous, if something's bad or good for us. And that's exactly right. We have very complex taste signals that give us the information of what to eat, how much to eat, and when to stop eating. You lose out on this if you don't spend enough time chewing and being immersed in the flavor of what you're eating. To do this, you should be chewing long enough to at least have a couple breaths of air through your nose while you're chewing in every bite. Not that it's something you need to stress out over about spending enough time, but just in general, breathe while you're chewing so that you can put your body into the parasympathetic state that it needs to actually digest, as well as spending enough time understanding the flavor that you're eating and receiving the information from the food that you're eating, and enough time to chew and break down the food properly. Because we are omnivores and we do require a good deal of diversity in our food, we have very different taste signals for sweet and sour and salty and savory and bitter, earthy, aromatic. Even different consistencies and textures and shapes all play a role in the satisfaction of our taste signals. When a flavor type is satisfied, it will no longer taste good to keep eating. And you only get that if you have spent enough time actually tasting it while you're chewing. In other words, if you eat a bunch of sweets, eventually they will taste repulsive, and that's your body telling you to stop eating them. It has obtained the necessary molecules from that food group. This important information is bypassed if you don't spend enough time actually tasting it. If you just chewing it very minimally without even breathing and swallowing it, you won't know when to stop because you haven't given your taste buds that satisfaction. Some days you may want bitter and savory together, or sour and sweet, or salty and earthy. Listening to your taste buds is giving you the information of what your body needs to sustain itself. It's not necessary to count calories or to worry about nutrition, because your taste buds are telling you what you need to be eating, and then being able to absorb the food that you're eating then gets transmuted into the different resources that will become your body. Our bodies are alchemical laboratories because we dissolve materials and then we rebuild them, and they become our flesh, our blood, and our bones. All of life has the same general building blocks, and those are broken down and then transmuted into the resources that it needs. All of these vitamins and minerals and hormones and neurotransmitters and proteins and fats and carbohydrates and whatnot, your body is able to make those from the building blocks that it obtains from eating something else. While it is true that there are some resources that our body can't build on its own, we do have 100 trillion or so microbes, and many of them, through their metabolic and fermentation process, can create those molecules, and we can use them. Taking the time to listen to the taste signals, to breathe while you're eating, putting yourself into the rest and digest state is how you absorb food properly and how you can convert this food into the resources that your body needs. You could be eating the apples of Hesperides, but if you can't absorb the food, then it doesn't do you any good. The second step is the distribution, and it's a lot simpler. It just has to do with moving around, exercising, inversion, like hanging upside down or doing handstands. Other forms of exercise and running or jump rope, walking, just moving around your body in different ways. That's how you get these nutrients to be transported through your blood. This has the benefit of you being able to test this out for yourself, of listening to your taste signals and breathing while you're eating and putting yourself into a relaxed state so that you can digest. You'll realize how quickly you feel full and how satisfying the different flavor profiles will line up with obtaining the proper resources from the food that you need in that moment. This alchemical process of transmuting resources into your body is found everywhere. It's something that's learned by organic life a long time ago. How an insect can learn metamorphosis. It's not through an accidental mutation, but because it's put the intention, it's able to dissolve and coagulate. Beyond all this, though, the most nourishing thing for your body is to have a hunger for life, to have a fighting spirit and a thirst for vengeance. That's just my opinion on the matter. Take it with a grain of salt. Thanks for watching.